Is Uber and Lyft temporarily suspending drivers? Are they threatening to permanently deactivate drivers? And are they actually permanently deactivating drivers? For the drivers who are actually enforcing Uber and Lyft's own mask policy and rules when it comes to riders. And that's what we're going to be talking about right now. Hey everyone, Chris here from Real Rideshare Stories. If you're new to the channel and you're looking for different things within the rideshare industry, whether it's updates to what's going on, news, tips and tricks for passengers and drivers, or what actually happens on real rideshare rides, start now by hitting that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. Also make sure to check the description below for other helpful information and tips. So it's been about a month now since both Uber and Lyft have put in policies that require all drivers and riders to wear masks during a ride. There are also some city and state mandates that require the same for any for-hire situation, and that would also include rideshare driving. So what has been going on, and have some drivers actually been getting suspended or deactivated or even threatened of deactivation for enforcing their own policies and even some of the mandates that are happening in certain cities and states? Well, the answer is yeah, some of them are. And there are two real main reasons why drivers are being put in temporary suspensions or even facing permanent deactivations, whether it become a warning or an actual deactivation. And that is because of changes in their policy have not been updated into their algorithm. And so it doesn't take account for the higher cancellation that some drivers are doing because of passengers not wearing masks. Then there are also passengers who aren't wearing masks who get mad that they're not getting a ride and are being charged a cancellation fee because of this. And so they're calling in and creating a false report. So going over the first reason, which is the algorithm hasn't been updated to reflect these policy changes. Pretty much the algorithm goes through, it pairs drivers and riders. The higher star rating you have, the more rides you're going to get. There's a whole thing behind it. There's a whole science of algorithm behind it. It's very hard to understand it. And a lot of drivers are just kind of picking up keys and things like that when it comes down to it. But one of the things that the algorithm will pick up on is a higher cancellation rate. And it says in their terms of service that if you cancel on too many rides, it could affect your ability to access the platform. And that could come in the form of a temporary suspension from the platform where you could lose access to the entire platform for a particular amount of time. And that's usually something that's temporary, where it's going to be maybe 30 minutes, an hour, maybe even longer, depending on what's going on. But it's usually short-lived, and you'll know when you're able to go back online. There also could be a timeout where you are placed in timeout where you're still online, but you're not going to get any rides for a particular time frame. And again, that could usually be about 30 minutes. Then there's also going to be the warnings of a possible permanent deactivation that are going to come through. And that's pretty much it for when it comes down to the algorithm and what it's going to pick up. And then it's going to auto send out these things, whether it's that suspension, whether it's the timeout, or whether it is going to notify you of a permanent deactivation. And again, that's because more people are coming and riding that aren't wearing masks. So those drivers who are enforcing that rule aren't doing anything wrong. It's just that the algorithm itself is picking up on this. So that's where some of the headache could come in. And the second reason why drivers are being either permanently deactivated or seeing a possible deactivation notice because of a complaint is because of a much more nefarious reason, and that is because of false reports. Now, we all know that false reports have been plaguing Uber and Lyft drivers since they started driving, but this is a little bit different because most false reports are made after the ride has been completed, and it's usually to try to get a free ride. And there are many different reasons, and some of them usually aren't even against the driver. They're just trying to get a free ride. Now, this one is a little bit different because this is before the ride even takes place. And usually it's because if the passenger or a certain passenger within the ride itself isn't wearing a mask, the driver says, "I'm sorry, I can't take the ride, no mask, no ride." And they're enforcing Uber and Lyft's policy. And then the driver is going to have to cancel the ride, but before that, they're going to wait the amount of time so then they can cancel it and collect that cancellation fee, which in turn will usually anger or upset that passenger, which will then prompt them to call up Uber or Lyft, depending on where the ride had originated from, and make a complaint against the driver themselves. And this is causing some problems where drivers are being deactivated, whether it's going to be a permanent deactivation or they're going to get a notification from Uber or Lyft saying that there has been passenger complaints against you. And this is just for them to try to get their cancellation fee back, or even to try to get even with you because you were the driver who said no ride because you didn't have a mask and then proceeded to wait for that cancellation fee. Now, when it comes to my opinion about waiting and then canceling, collecting, and driving, I would still suggest doing that, and that's exactly what I would do. If I had a ride that they didn't have a mask on, then I would say, sorry, no mask, no ride, and I would wait the 5 minutes so then I can get the cancellation fee. But then the other thing that I would do, which should help cover your ass as well, is create a report and say that this person didn't have a mask and therefore there is no ride. So then if that person calls up down the road and complains against you or to try to get that cancellation fee refunded, it's already in the system and it's timestamped, so you have it on your side. It's pretty much whoever makes the report first, that's who they tend to follow. So yeah, there could be some issues with that. But when it comes down to it, now this is another reason why you should have a dash camera, because you can record. If you have the visual abilities to record that, you have that. But if not, it will still pick up the audio and you can show that they didn't have a mask. You asked if they had a mask. And if they become rude or anything like that, you have that on there. And if you want to make a report against that, then you can possibly do that as well. That's up to you and how that unfolded there. But you want to make sure you always put in a report first and make sure you have that dash cam footage recording, so then if down the road you need it, you'll have it. And this right here that I'm going to read right now is an email from somebody who sent me one of their stories of what had happened. And it says, I am a driver and I have a question about the Lyft cancel procedure for the mask thing. I've been losing money because I was canceling on my end and not getting paid for it. I did get a fee a few times because it was after the 2-minute mark, but many times I did not. I even caught a 30-minute ban because I called the riders to ask if they had a mask. I call them as soon as I accepted the trip. If they said they did not, I tell them to cancel it right away and avoid the fee. And I wouldn't have to drive to them and waste the time and gas. And that's actually a pretty good idea. So if it's a longer pickup, and because there's less drivers who are out on the road for many areas, although that is starting to change, there are more and more drivers. So the longer pickup rides are starting to kind of come down a little bit. But if it is a long pickup ride, if you want to call that passenger right away and make sure that they have a mask, then if they don't, have them cancel, because then you don't have to waste your time and gas. There is no cancellation fee and you don't have to worry about it. So that's a good idea right there. But it goes on and says, I wouldn't have to drive them and waste time and gas. After I encountered 4 of these in a row, I got a 30-minute ban and a permanent ban warning, complete with a red warning icon attached to my feedback file. And that is, like I said, what is happening. So this is looking like it could be the algorithm that is taking place. And it may also be somebody who's complaining about that whole procedure, maybe not necessarily against the driver, but it looks like this would be something where the driver is being under that algorithm change because there is either a high cancellation rate and it's picking it up in a row saying there's cancellations in a row. This is a problem. You are off the platform. And again, that's one of the reasons. So it says, here's the example question. This is what happened to me last week, and have dash cam footage of the whole thing. Lyft was not interested in seeing it, of course. Now, I did say, yes, you want to make sure you have your dash cam footage and you want to make sure you have recording of it. Yes, Lyft or Uber may not take it, usually in circumstances where it is not a big problem in terms of cancellation fee. Yes, it could be a big problem to you being a driver out there. Unfortunately, something like that, they don't think of that as a big problem, so they may not take footage for it. You could try to potentially get it in there or even have the audio footage of it. So you could try at least doing that. But again, make sure you have that footage just in case. And if they do take it, you have it on your end and it'll back up your side of the story. So this person gets a ping that's about 12 minutes away. They accept the trip and immediately send the text message, "Hi, person or passenger. Please ensure that you have a mask on when I arrive," and remains on for the full duration of the trip as per Lyft's guidelines. "I'll see you soon." Good message. Make sure that they know. And that's exactly how I voice text all the customers before I waste my time. That's pretty good, like I said. I arrive at the rider's house and they come out late, of course. He was texting on his phone when he came out, which means he had to have seen the message pop up on the screen and probably ignored it. He walks up to the car and tries to gain entry to the car, but the doors were locked. Safety precautions. That's a good thing right there because you always want to make sure you verify who's getting in your car before the ride even is allowed to start. Roll down the front window and ask him if he has a mask, and he says no. So right there, no mask, no ride. Tell him per the rideshare guidelines and city bylaw guidelines. Unfortunately, since Lyft still hasn't put it in print, I had nothing to show him, so I directed him to lyft.com/safety/coronavirus. He said to cancel so he wouldn't have to pay the $5. I told him I could not because of his lack of responsibility, was not my problem, and that I had expenses to pay and that I incurred them to get him. And that's a smart decision. Don't let their problems reflect on you and don't fall for their BS. So that's when he got mad and asked me to show him proof. I again directed him to the website. He didn't listen to me and stepped back to the side to text somebody. And if you are the one who emailed me, or if you need that in print, you can go to Lyft's blog and show that. Also, Uber's blog has it on there where it says that masks are mandated, so you can show them or direct them there, so you can have them specifically see it. If that is becoming a problem, I know some people are putting up with that and having some problems. So then it says, I once more asked him what he wanted to do because otherwise I had to move on. He asked me again for proof. Come on, man. He was also recording me with his phone at this time and moved to the back of the car to record the plate. After I realized I was not getting anywhere with this person, and at the point, even if he went into the house to get a mask, I was not going to let him in the car to get a 1-star from this jerk. And that's a smart move right there too, because certain things unfold and because this person was obviously getting mad and then starting to record you, you knew that this was not going to be a good ride. So that guy, again, smart decision on this driver's part. And then I told him I had to go and this was not going to work out and said, "See ya." That's when he flipped out yelling at me and told me to shut up when I tried to explain why it wouldn't be a good fit, but he wasn't listening. Again, he's already in his own world, not paying attention. Then he ended up canceling. A few days later, he got the driver got a ban warning with a yellow warning icon. And that's where it said you could face possible deactivation because of a customer complaint. And this is a problem. So what ended up happening was in the email, he said that he hasn't been on Lyft since he got that 30-minute ban because he can't afford to run into another person like this. Otherwise, the ban will be permanent. And that is becoming a problem all over, like I was saying. So it's a very hard thing. But the one thing I would recommend doing, again, if you cancel the ride or if he cancels the ride or the other person cancels the ride, then make sure you make a report for that as quick as possible so you have the timestamp to back your side of the story up first. And then, like I said, Uber, Lyft kind of do sway at whoever goes in first when they're doing the report. So it could help you to get that in first. So if you are driving away, just pull over, make that report right away. If you have to call up, you can do that, but expect long times to wait because of that. A notification through the app will be your best bet because it will be timestamped. Also, make sure to take screenshots of everything just so you have that for your records if you ever have to fight anything down the road. But those are a few things, like I said, what is happening. So yeah, you're getting something where you could face a temporary suspension, you could face a warning of a permanent deactivation, and you could also be permanently deactivated when it comes down to it because of the algorithm that hasn't been updated to reflect these changes, or because of a customer complaint that is directed at you because you didn't take them. Now, I just want to say a quick disclaimer when it comes down to it that most rides will not have any problems. And most times when you tell a passenger, no mask, no ride, there are usually no problems. The only problem is there may be an elevated risk when you tell somebody no mask, no ride, because it is a new policy. They may claim that they've never seen it, which is a possibility because when things pop up like terms and conditions, you just usually hit accept without reading what it is. And that could be the same type of thing. So they may not really necessarily know it. But when it comes down to it, most of the time there is going to be no problems. But like I said, there could be that elevated risk. So anytime you do have to cancel a ride for a particular reason, like no mask, no ride policy, then just make sure you make a report to cover yourself. And like I said, most of the time there won't be any problems, but unfortunately, because you may be facing higher cancellation rates, because more and more people may not be wearing masks and you have to cancel on them or are supposed to cancel on them, that could lead to, again, the algorithm problem that hasn't been updated, and hopefully, but I highly doubt it will be updated because this is probably only going to be a temporary thing and it probably will only last for a particular amount of time. Now let me know what's going on with you. Are you driving out there? Have you had to cancel on more people? Do you even enforce the mask policy? Or any of this? Have you received a temporary suspension, a warning, or even a possible deactivation issue? Comment below, let me know what's going on with you. Now that's the end of this video. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for notifications so you'll be notified every time a new video is uploaded. Also, make sure to check the description below for other helpful information and tips. And as always, never drink and drive. Always tip your drivers, your delivery drivers, and your shoppers. And we'll see you next time.